Begin today the Gemara on Daf Chof Tes at the Mishnah towards the top of the Yomad. Sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Eizihi Shevuos Shav. We're moving on to the next category of a Shvuah. Till then we learned about what's called Shevuos Bitui, a Shvuah that a person expresses and says about the future, that he will do something or he did something. But here this is Shevuos Shav, which means a Shvuah in vain. And the Mishnah gives the examples for this. Nishba l'shanis is a yidua la'odam. A person swears about something that is known for everybody. For example, Omar ala Omut 11, a person says about a pillar of stone, shu shalzav, that it's a pillar of gold. So this is something everyone knows is a lie. So the Mepharshim say that it gives the example of an Omud, because if it was just a stone, then you swear about it that it's gold, it's possible that people would think that maybe it is gold or it has gold mixed into it. But this is an Omud, this is clearly not gold. Vala ish shuhu isha, or he swears about a man that he's a woman. Vala isha shuhu ish, or a woman that's a man. That's also something that everybody knows what this is, and it's a shvuah in vain. Nishbal davar sheyef shalai. He swears about something that it's impossible to be. Mishnah gives examples. If I did not see a camel that was flying in the air. If I did not see a snake that's as large as the Beis Abad, the place in olive press. So these are things that are impossible. Other examples of a Shevuos Shav, a person says to Eidim, Boyu va'iduni, come and testify for me. And the person responds and says, Shvuah shaloina itcha. We swear that we're not going to testify for you. That's a Shevuos Shav because it's a mitzvah to testify. So he's swearing to be mevatel a mitzvah. And a person cannot be mevatel this mitzvah. So it's a Shvuah in vain. Other examples of a Shevuos Shav for a mitzvah, Nishba levatel is a mitzvah, a person swears to break a mitzvah. Shalei las sukkah, not to build a sukkah. V'shalei little lulav, not to take the lulav. V'shalei laniach tefillin, not to put on tefillin. Zuhi Shevuos Shav. These are all examples of a Shevuos Shav. And here it's interesting regarding the sukkah, it doesn't say not to sit in the sukkah, but it says not to build the sukkah, because apparently even the building of the sukkah is part of the mitzvah itself. In the pasuk it says Chag HaSukkah is tasalach. So in these cases, what's the halacha? Shechayavin al zedaina makis, that b'mezid one gets malchus, but val shegigasa, if one makes a shvuah in vain, but it was b'shegig potter, then he will be potter. Over here, for this, there's no carbon. The carbon oil v'yayda that we learned about before is only for the shvuas sheker, where it's for the future or for something in the past that's not known to everybody. Shvuah, what happens if a person made first a shvuah sha'eichel kikerzu, I will eat this bread. And then he said a second shvuah, shvuah shaloyech lana, an opposite shvuah, shvuah that I will not eat it. So what happens now? Harishayna shvuas bitui. The first shvuah he made was the shvuah, the category of the shvuah that we spoke about before, that he uttered with his mouth that he will do something and he has to fulfill it. Then vashniya, the second shvuah is a shvuas shav. That's a shvuah in vain, because after he makes the first shvuah, now he has the mitzvah that he must eat it. He must fulfill the shvuah. And when he makes the second shvuah that he's not going to eat it, he can't fulfill the second shvuah. So that's a shvuah in vain. So now achla, if he goes ahead and eats this bread, so avar al shvuas shav. So he transgressed. He did not fulfill the second shvuah. So now the second shvuah is in vain. Loya, the truth is, the moment he says the second shvuah, the moment he utters from his mouth the second shvuah, it's right away in vain. So if he eats it, so he has the second shvuah, which is in vain. Loyachla, if he did not eat it, so then aval shvuah is bitui. Then he's over on his first shvuah, where he's made the first shvuah that he will go ahead and eat it. And then he has to bring a carbon for that, or if it's b'mezid, malchus.
So when is he over on achla aval shvuah shav, even before he's over?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. The Gemara will explain regarding the second etc. Okay. Omar Ole. So Ole said regarding the case in the Mishnah. First case where it says that Shevuos Shav means that he swears about something which is Yudua, that everybody knows that he makes a Shevuah in vain. So Ole said, V'hu shenikar l'gimel b'nei Adam. It has to be something that three people know that this is the fact, and he's swearing different, that it's not, and that's a Shevuah in vain. And that will be called Shevuos Shav. And Rashi says, but if it's something which is not nikar, for example, a person says, I ate yesterday, I did not eat yesterday, which is also a shvuah in vain, really, but it's something that's not known to people, that falls into the category of shvuas sheker, and we learned about before, and according to one opinion over there, you will be chayav to bring a carbon when it was b'shegi. Now, nishbal davar sheyefsha, a person swears about something that's impossible, efshaloi. Im loy re'isi gomel perech ba'avet. So the language Mishnah said was, he swore, if I did not see a camel flying through the air. So the Gemara says, why does the Mishnah use this expression? Im loy ra'isi, if I did not see. Shvuah shari'isi loy ka'amar. The Mishnah does not say that he's swearing that I saw. I saw this camel flying in the air. So my im loy ra'isi. What does it mean? If I did not see. If he did not see, so that's not good. It's true. He did not see this. So Abaye says, Tni shvuah sharisi. You have to amend the Mishnah. Taka says that he made a shvuah that I saw this camel flying in the air. Rava says he did not say a shvuah sharisi. He could leave the Mishnah in the language that it is, but rather he said Ba'omer ye'asru kol peiris sheba'olam alai, that he wants to asa all peiris in the world on himself with a shvuah. So basically, he's saying I'm not going to eat anything in the world. Peiris sheba'olam, it basically means he's making a shvuah that he's not going to eat any peiris in the world. Im lo yirisi gamal pereach babed. If I did not see a gamal flying through the air, right? So this is something that can't be. Because a person can't say that he's not going to eat anything. He says, if I did not see this flying through the air, I'm not going to eat anything. So what? So it means he's not going to eat anything. So that's a shvuah in vain. It's impossible that he shouldn't eat, and therefore this is the shvuah's shav. Now Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So Ravina says to Ravashi, how do we know that how can we say for sure that the person is making a shvuah in vain? Maybe this is something that's true. Vidilme, maybe what happened was, Hi Gavre, this person, Sipoire Rabba Chazi. He saw a huge bird flying. The Asik Leishma Gamli, you see such a massive bird flying, unusual, so he names it a camel. Wow, it's like a camel flying through the air. When he swears, don't look at the actual words that he says, that sounds like it's a lie. The shvuah goes by what his intent is. He's thinking to himself that he's saying gamel. He doesn't mean if it's a real camel. He means what he's referring to as a camel in his mind because it would look like a camel to him. So if you'll argue and answer and say, Basar pume lino, you can't say this. We don't go by what the person is thinking to himself, but we go by what he said with his mouth. He said a camel flying through the air. That's something which is not true. It's a shvuah in vain. We don't go by the intent of the person, even though in his mouth he said something else. But is that true? Because Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, when Bezdin administers the oath to a person in a Bezdin, when a person has to swear in a dintaita regarding whatever matter it is, a money matter, and the person has to make a shvuah, so what does Bezdin do? They tell him, they tell the person, you should know, we are not having you take this shvuah based on what you are thinking the content of the shvuah is. Elal dateinu valdas bezdin. It's based on what we are defining, or another gear says das hamokim. The way we are obligating you to swear, and the way we understand the shvuah is, that is what your shvuah is about. So if the person is going to swear and he's going to say to himself, I'm not swearing falsely. I'm saying one thing with my mouth, but in my mind, I'm thinking that my shvuah means whatever I wanted to believe it means. So therefore, Bezdin clarifies to him, no, you're swearing on our das. So now, what do we see from this Braisa? My time, why does Bezdin have to clarify this to the person? Salav isn't the reason. Mishom, because the Amrina we say, and this is, again, as I mentioned, a shvuah regarding a dinteire and a money matter, the Bezdin will say, Dilme, perhaps if this person is swearing that I paid this person already. So maybe he's thinking in his mind as follows: Iskarundi Yovle, he gave this person these pieces of fake coins, play money, and Va'astik Lahu Shma Zuzi. And in his mind, he's referring to it as money. So he's swearing, I paid him already, but he didn't pay. It's just what he's thinking in his mind. So we don't go by what he's saying with his mouth. So the chi kamishtaba adaita didei kamishtaba. So therefore, it's possible that when the person will be swearing, if we're not going to clarify to him that he's swearing on our das and the das of the bezdin, then he'll be swearing based on what he's thinking. So we clearly see here that when a person swears, he could be swearing based on what he's thinking. So then over here, when a person says, "I saw this camel flying in the air," maybe he's just saying this based on his description of what he saw, and he's thinking to himself that it's like a camel. Answers the Gemara, there's no raya from that brayse. Hossam, the reason why Bezdin has to tell him that he's swearing on our das is not because he might be thinking about play money. Hossam, the reason is Mishum Kanya de Rava, because of the story that once happened with this cane and a dintaire by Rava. What happened? There was this person that claimed that he already paid someone, and they made him swear for this, that he actually paid him. So what did he do? He was holding this cane in his hand that was a hollow cane, and inside there was money. And he gave the person that was in the dintaire with him, he gave him to hold this cane, and he had the money in his hands. He didn't know yet, but in the cane, he had the money in his hands. And he swore, I gave you the money. And then later it was revealed, it was opened up, and they saw that the money is in this cane. This is a trick. It's not a matter of play money. Over here it was Take, he gave him the cane. So because the person shouldn't play this kind of a trick, Bezdin tells him that you're swearing on our das, which is not this kind of a trick. Toshema, the Gemara says, they'll bring you a raya from another braise where we could see that when a person swears, it can go by his das. What does it say here? We find when Moshe Rabbeinu had, he didn't take an oath to accept, to fulfill what it says in Torah. This is what it says when Moshe Rabbeinu, before he passed away in Parshas Nitzavim, when they were in Arvis Moav, coming into Eretz Yisrael. So there Moshe Rabbeinu had, he didn't swear that they're going to fulfill what the Torah says. So what did he say? He tells Yidden, you should know, I'm not having you swear based on what you're imagining, what you're thinking. That the Shevuos consists of. El al das ha-makayim, it's on the das of the Eibishter, val daiti, and what my das is, the Shevuos should be. So over here as well we see that he's clarifying this to them, that it has to be on his das and on das ha-makayim. So again the question is, v'amai, why does he have to tell them this, that he's being mashbiyah them on his das and on das ha-makayim? Leimeluhu, kaimu mai da'amar aleka. He should just tell them, fulfill what the Eibishter wants, and that would be enough. Why does he have to clarify that it's on my das and on das hamokim? So Lav, don't you think the reason is mishum demaski adatayu avodas kechavim? It's because they may be thinking when Moshe Rabbeinu says that I'm having you swear that you should do what aleka, what the Eibishter wants, that they'll be thinking to themselves, what's aleka? For them, it's avodas zara. Chas v'shalom. They could be thinking to themselves in their das something else. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu had to clarify that it's al das hamak and val daiti. So here we see that a Shevuah doesn't necessarily go by what a person utters with his mouth, but it goes by what he's thinking in his mind. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu has to clarify that it's al das hamak and val daiti. Says the Gemara, loy, no, that's not the reason. Mishum da avodas kechavim namin ikri aliyah. Because even in avodas zara, even if you do go by what you say verbally, but avodas zara also is referred to as an aliyah. So therefore, when Moshe Rabbeinu would tell them that you should fulfill what the Eibishter wants and use this term, so even the term that's verbally said could be referring to avodas zara. Should not make by the Eibishter. So you see that it's that this term means avodas zara. But the Gemara asks,
maybe in both of these cases, the Torah is saying that yes, we know you can say things in your mind, and we're telling you that we don't want to accept anything that's in your mind, and therefore we're saying it this way.
Yeah.
But that's not what the Torah. That's what he's saying. He's saying he's making a proof that we are concerned with what you're in your mind, and I'm saying it's just showing that we're not concerned with your mind. You can have anything else what you want in your mind. We don't care. It's what we think.
Yeah, but
okay,
but Moshe Rabbeinu has to stipulate that in the Shevuah.
Right.
He has to make that clear.
Because let you know that what you have in your mind is nothing.
No. He has to stipulate that, because if he would not say it, then what they have in their mind would be significant. It's not mashmei that he's just letting them know that what you have in your mind is nothing. He doesn't have to. He's not letting them know. If what they have in their mind is nothing, so it's nothing. The fact that he has to stipulate it, he has to clarify and tell them that it's al das hamokim, it's mashma that without that, what they have in their mind would be significant. So therefore the Gemara answers that it's not only in their mind, it's even the actual word that said that you should fulfill what the Eibishter wants. The term ele'ah could be referring to avodas zara. So therefore it has to be clarified. But now here the Gemara is going to go through a few different options of what would be possible for Moshe Rabbeinu to say without clarifying the das, because even the words itself would be clear what it means, and you don't go by the das. So why wouldn't he just tell the Yidden, Kaimu Torah, fulfill what it says in the Torah? That's clear, that we know what the Torah is, and therefore he doesn't have to clarify anything about the das, because the Gemara here is arguing that we're going by just a word. Says the Gemara, that wouldn't be sufficient, because Chader Torah, because that would be just one Torah, which would mean only Torah Shebechsav, and not the Torah Shebal Peh. So the Gemara asks, okay, so V'leime, he should tell the Yidden that I'm having you swear that Kaimu Shtei Torahs, fulfill both Torahs, Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh. So the Gemara says that term, to say you have to fulfill Shtei Torahs, would be Torahs Chatas, Torahs Asham. That would mean that it says in the pasuk, the lashon of Zeis Torahs Achatas, Torahs Asham, that you have to fulfill the halachas of Asham and Chatas. That's it. So the Gemara says no. He could tell them Kaim Kol Torah Kula. fulfill all of Torah. So that is already includes everything. Says the Gemara, no, I would say that means that they shouldn't serve Avodah Zarah, Avodas Kechavim. He's having them swear not to serve Avodah Zarah. Why? Because the Amamar, Chamur Avodas Kechavim is so severe. Shekala Kaifer Ba, one that denies this, he denies Avodah Zarah, it's like he's being made in all of Torah. And if it's the opposite, if one serves Avodah Zarah, it's like he's breaking all of Torah. So Kala Torah Kula would be referring just to Avodah Zarah. In fact, the Gemara, okay, so the term Torah in any of these options doesn't work. He could still just tell them, Kaimu mitzvah, fulfill the mitzvah. Says the Gemara, no, I would say Chada mitzvah. The term mitzvah in a singular term, it would mean just to fulfill one mitzvah. That's not a good term. Kaimu mitzvahs. He could say to them, fulfill mitzvahs. Tarti. I would say mitzvahs means just fulfill two mitzvahs. He could tell them, Kol mitzvahs kulam. So that's clear, fulfill all mitzvahs. So this Gemara also says, I would say, it refers to mitzvah tzitzis. Maybe it refers only to fulfilling the mitzvah of tzitzis, because the Amar, shkula, mitzvah tzitzis, keneged, kol mitzvahs kulam. The mitzvah of tzitzis corresponds to all of the mitzvahs, as we learn out from Uzchartam, it's called mitzvah Hashem. The gematria is 608, and plus the strings of the tzitzis, and the 5 knots, that's another 13. So it's 613 the mitzvahs. So therefore, you can't use any of these terms because it won't be clear. So what did he have to say? He has to say to them adas amokim valdaiti. But now the Gemara asks. One second. There's one more question here. He could still say to the Yidden a language that would be clear. Kaimu sheish meis l'shloish esra mitzvahs. Fulfill 613 mitzvahs. So that's clear that it means this number of all 613 mitzvahs. So from the fact that he didn't say this means that there is a problem with the fact that even if you would tell them, fulfill 613 mitzvahs, Yidden could be thinking in their mind something else. And therefore he has to clarify to them, al dais amakim valdaiti. So we see from here, after all of this, we see from here that you still go by the das of the person, not necessarily what's said verbally. But the Gemara asks back, all the time, according to your reasoning, that the reason why it's necessary for Moshe Rabbeinu to clarify that it's al daiti, al das amakim, is because otherwise Yidden could be thinking something else. So leimeluhu al daiti. Wouldn't it be enough for Moshe Rabbeinu just to say that Yidden have to swear just al daiti? What Moshe Rabbeinu is thinking. Al das amakim lamali. Why does he have to add both al daiti and al das amakim? Rashi says one of them would be good enough. Why both? So hello, the answer is the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu is saying this term al daiti and al das amakim kehechi deloy tehavi afare l'shvusayo. He's adding this not for the clarification of what the shvua is. It's for another reason. In order for them not to have the ability to break to undo this shvua. That's what he's saying over here. When you make a shvua al das acherim that's dependent on the das of others, then you can't be mata this neder. Just like the halacha always, a neder al das rabim. You can't break this. You can't ever undo this neder. That's the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu added this. Going back to the Mishnah, it says, if I did not see a snake that's as large as the Yukoides Beis Abad, as the koida, the wood that's used for the Beis Abad. So very large snake. So that's a lie. That's a shvu in vain. The Gemara asks, why is it a shvu in vain? V'loi, is there no such thing? The have b'shnei shover malka. There was this snake in the times of Shver Malka. So havachad, there was a snake, the achzik tleisa arvese tivne, that it was able to swallow 13 barns or 13 piles of tivne, of wheat or of
Straw.
Yeah, of straw. Arvese is these barns. Okay, so Rashi says actually there was 13 barns of horses that had the straw in it, and he swallowed it all at once. Massive snake. Actually, he brings a story. I think it comes from the Yerushalmi. It says that there was this massive snake, and they wanted to kill it, so they put a fire inside. And then when it swallowed all of this together, it also swallowed this fire as well, and then the fire burnt the snake. So you see, there is such a massive snake. Shmuel answers bitaruf, that what the person is swearing is that this, when it does, he didn't just say that it's a massive snake like this koides beis abad, but that it has these spots on it. That's what he's saying. This snake with spots. The Gemara asks, that's the chiddush. Kulunami mitrev trifin. We see there, and many snakes have these spots on it. Answers the Gemara b'shegabay taruf. has spots on the back of the snake. These spots on the snake is usually on the top that's exposed, not on the bottom of the snake, which is facing them to the ground. Over here, the person says, "I saw this massive snake that did have the spots on the bottom." That's really what the reason this shvuah is a shvuah in vain is. The Gemara in another place, I think in the Darim, the Gemara continues and asks on this and says that that's not what it said in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah it said that he saw this Kairis Beis Abad, that it's large as Kairis Beis Abad, not that it has these spots on the back. So the Gemara there says that it's coming to tell you that this, he's saying Kairis Beis Abad because a Kairis Beis Abad is also taruf. It's also a certain kind of wood that's used that has different spots on it. And it's saying this in order to know the halacha regarding selling this kind of beam that's used for the olive press, that it has to be with these kinds of spots in it, that quality of wood. And it's teaching you derech agav a halacha regarding the sale of this kind of a wood. It said in the Mishnah, and then the Mishnah said in such a case, first he made a shvuah that he will eat his bread. Then he made a shvuah that he will not eat it. So the Mishnah said the first shvuah was, the shvuah is bitui, a shvuah that he has to fulfill, to eat. The second shvuah, he said he's not going to eat it, so that's a shvuah in vain, because he has already a mitzvah to eat it. Then the second point the Mishnah said was, if he goes ahead and eats it, so then, if he did not eat it, that is, then he's over on the first shvuah, on the shvuah's bitui. So on this the Gemara asks, Hashta mishum shvuah's bitui mechayev, mishum shvuah's shav lo mechayev. If he actually did not eat it, are you going to say that he only broke the first shvuah, where he said he is going to eat it, but he did not break the second, or the second shvuah, he would not be chayev for? When it comes to the second shvuah, it doesn't make a difference if he ended up eating it or he did not eat it. The moment he said the shvuah out of his mouth that I will not eat it, right away it's a shvuah shav, it's a shvuah in vain. He has the mitzvah to eat it, so he's now swearing against the mitzvah. So you have to add in the Mishnah when he actually did not eat it. So here he's not over only on the shvuah's bitui, it's also on the shvuah's bitui. He made the shvuah in vain, and because he did not eat it, he's also over on the shvuah's bitui. So the category of the shvuah's bitui, this is something that applies to men, ubenoshim, and to women. All these things that the Mishnah is about to say here. The reason the Mishnah says this is because in the next Mishnah, at the beginning of the next Perek, it talks about the shvuah se'edus, a shvuah that a person swears that I do not know this testimony, which is a third category of a shvuah that we'll be learning about in the next Perek. There, the halacha of that shvuah only applies to someone that's kosher to say edus. And he's saying that he does not know the edus. So therefore here the Mishnah is saying that the shvuah's bitui, a person utters something and he has to fulfill it, this applies by everyone. By men, by women, b'kroivim, b'rechaikim, whether it's a relative, and so you can't say edus for that. B'rechaikim, someone that's not a relative, b'ksherin, ub'psulin, he's kosher to say this, he's possible to say this, b'fnei bezin, inside, in front of the bezin, v'shaloi b'fnei bezin, and not in front of the bezin, mipi atzmai. When this shvuah the person is saying is from himself. He is the one that says the shvuah from his mouth, and it's also when someone else says the shvuah and you answer amen to it, as the Gemara will prove from what it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah, as we'll see. And on this shvuah's bitui, the chayaven al zedayna makis, b'mezid, if you don't fulfill the shvuah, you chayav malkis, val shigigasa, b'shegi, carbon, oil v'yated. You chayav the carbon. That's for the rich and the poor. Now, Shevuos shav, the other category of the Shevuah, as we just learned before, the Shevuah in vain, this is also applies to men and women, someone that's not a relative, someone that is a relative. In other words, a person makes the Shevuos shav in relation to people that are a relative of his or not. A person that's kosher, apostle for Eidus, bifnei bezdin, shaloi bifnei bezdin, in front of bezdin, not in front of bezdin, umipi atzmai. He is saying the Shevuah himself. And regarding this shvuah, the chayav and al-zadayna makis, so there's malkis for b'mezid, but val shigigasa, if it's b'shegig, potter. There's no carbon for this. Now, achazu, both of these categories, the shvuah's bitui and the shvuah's shav, hamushba b'pi acherim chayiv, if he's not saying the shvuah himself, but others are saying to him that you swear for this, and the person is answering to this amen, as we'll see, the Gemara will explain, he answers amen to this, then it'll be chayiv. And what's the case? So the Bachar adds, Keitzad, if a person says, Lo yachalti hayom, I did not eat today, v'lo yanachti tefillin hayom, I did not put tefillin on today, and then someone else says, Mashbiyacha ani, you swear for this, v'omar amen, and the person answers amen, chayiv. So then the person will be chayiv for the shvuah, even though he didn't say the term shvuah himself with his own mouth, but he said amen to this, he'll be chayiv. Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel said, Kol ha'eina amen. Acha shvuah. Person that answers amen after a shvuah, k'moitzi shvuah mipiv dami. It's like he uttered the shvuah with his mouth, and he'll be chayiv for this in every case. It's the exact same like uttering the shvuah with his mouth, and this is the same as also by shvuas ha'edus, which is going to be the next Mishnah and the next Pedic. So over there as well, whether it's mipi atzmai or he just answered amin to it, he'll be chayiv the same, completely the same. Because the pasuk says va'amra ha'isha amen amen by the saita. When the Kayin is swearing and saying that he's mashbiah her, that she did not do the Aveda, and the Isha answers amen amen, it's like she swore herself. Amar Rav Papa Mishmei de Rava, so Rav Papa said the name of Rava Masnisin Ubraise Nami Deke. I'll bring you a raya from what it says in a Mishnah, and then there's something in a Braise that it says that contradicts what it says in the Mishnah, and that proves the point that Shmuel says. The Tani, because what does it say in the Mishnah? This is the next Mishnah, the next Pedic, Shevuos ha'edos. So the Mishnah says, the Shevuah for a testimony, a person swears, I don't know any testimony for you. And he does. So for this Shevuah, so there the Mishnah says, Nehages ba'anoshim. So since the whole idea of this Shevuah is that it was possible for him to say this Eidos, so it's only by a person that's kosher to say the Eidos. So that's only for men. V'loi b'noshim, not women that are possible for Eidos. But a chaykim, only if you're swearing this for someone that's not a relative. V'loi b'kreivim, not for a relative. B'ksheidin, someone that's kosher for Eidos. V'loi b'psulin, not for someone that's not kosher for Eidos. Now, v'eina nehages ela b'roi l'hoid. B'ro'in l'hoid, that is, it's only by someone that's fit for saying Eidos, or b'fnei bezdin, or shalai b'fnei bezdin. The Mishnah says that this halacha of Shevuos Eidos applies whether you're saying this in front of the bezdin, or even if not in front of the bezdin. The other baldin says, say Eidos for me, and he swears that he does not know the Eidos, even if it's not in front of the bezdin. And the Mishnah says, mipi atzmai, whether he utters the Shevuah of his mouth himself, or mipi achedim. Mipi atzmai, sorry, this is the way you read it. Mipi atzmai. This is all if he utters the shvuah himself. Then I say that it doesn't matter if it's in front of Bezdin or if it's not in front of Bezdin. Now, mipi achedim, if though he's not saying the shvuah himself, but it's others that are coming and telling him that we're administering an oath to you that you should that you don't know this testimony, and then he answers amen. So he didn't say the shvuah himself. Then these Eidim will not be chayiv unless they deny in the Bezdin. Divrei Rab Meir. So here you see Rab Meir in this Mishnah is making a distinction when it comes to a shvuah that was not mipi atzmai. It's not the same as a shvuah mipi atzmai, because over here he's only going to be chayiv the way it works in a Bezdin. That the Bezdin comes and tells the person that we're having you swear that you don't know this Eidos, and then the person answers amen to the Bezdin, then he will be chayiv. That's what it says in the Mishnah. Now, but V'tanya in the Braise we learned it says differently. Tanya beBraise, in the Braise it says Shevuos Eidos Keitzad. How does the Shevuos Eidos? A person swears that he does not know a testimony. What is this? A person says to Eidim, Boy v'ayiduni Shevuah she'ein ani yoyden locha Eidos. A person says, come and testify for me, and he swears and says, the Eidim swear and say Shevuah she'ein ani yoyden locha Eidos. We swear we don't know a Eidos for you. Or they did not say the term of Shevuah. They said, we can't testify for you, we don't know an Eidos for you. And now the Baldin himself says, Mashbiya ani aleichem, that I want you to swear for me. I'm having you swear for me that you do not know this testimony. Va'omru, and the Eidim responded amen. They responded with an amen to this Shevuah. So here in the Braise it says Bein b'fnei Bezdin, whether it's inside Bezdin, Bein shaloi b'fnei Bezdin, even if it's not in Bezdin, and that's Bein mipi atzmai, whether the Eidim said the Shevuah, the term of Shevuah themselves, Bein mipi achedim, or it's from the mouth of others, the Baldin said I'm having you swear for me, and it was not in front of the Bezdin. Kivin shekafru behem, they denied this, that they know the Eidos, chayavin, they'll be chayiv. Divrei Rab Meir, this is the opinion of Rab Meir. So here in the Braise you see that Rab Meir is saying that by Shevuos Eidos, there's no difference if it's in front of a Bezdin or if it's not in front of the Bezdin, and it's the same whether the person and the Eidim are saying themselves the term of Shevuah or they're not, or mipi achedim. And in the Mishnah it said different. In the Mishnah it said that if it's mipi achedim, then they'll be chayiv only if it's who's the achedim, if it's the Bezdin. If Bezdin is the one that's having him swear. So Kashina Dodi, there's a contradiction here in what Rab Meir is saying from the Mishnah to the Braise. So Elalav, so don't you think that Shmami, no, from this we could learn out the point that Shmuel said. Ha, the Ana Amen. In a case where the Edom answer verbally, Amen, so then I say that saying Amen is mamish like saying the term of Shvuah out of your mouth. And it's there that Meir said that it doesn't make a difference if you're in front of Bezdin or if you're not in front of Bezdin, it's the same thing. And you'll be chayiv. Oh, the loyana amen. In the Mishnah, when it said that when the shvu is mipi achedim, over there you'll only be chayiv when it's through the achedim of the bezdin and not outside of the bezdin. That's because he's accepting the shvu from the bezdin, but he didn't answer amen. So therefore, it's not the same as uttering the term of a shvu. Shema mina. This proves the point that Shmuel said. Ravina says in the name of Rav, masnisen the hochanami deke. We don't have to bring a rai from the next Mishnah regarding Shavuos Eidos, but from the Mishnah right over here that we learned, we could also prove this point. Because over here in our Mishnah, there's also seemingly a contradiction from the beginning, from the Reisha to the Seifa of the Mishnah. Because the Katani, the Mishnah says in the beginning, Shavuos bitoi, this Shavuos, when a person utters something and he has to fulfill it, noyag is ba noshim, ben noshim, b'rechaykim, b'krayvim, b'ksherim, b'psulim, b'fnei bezin, shaloi, b'fnei bezin. So it says all these categories, and then what does the Mishnah say? Mi piatzmai. When he says the Shvuah himself. So what do you see from the Reish of the Mishnah? That in, or you add over here, that it says again, Pi'atzmai in, that only if he utters the Shvuah himself, but it sounds like Pi'achedim loy, that if he responds to others that are having him swear, or he's just accepting the Shvuah that others are having him swear, then loy, then he's not going to be chayav for the Shvuah as bitter. That's what it's, well it doesn't, it says in the Mishnah, Pi'atzmai, it's mashma that min pi'achedim he would be potter. That's from the Reisha. But the Katani Sefer, but then at the end of the Mishnah, it clearly says zeh v'zeh mushma min pi'achedim. That both of these cases, meaning the Shavuos bitui and the Shavuos shav that it said in the Mishnah, when he's swearing this not by saying it himself, but min pi'achedim, others are telling him mashbiyachani, so he's chayiv, that he will be chayiv for this. So kashina dodi the Reisha and the Sefer is a contradiction. So elalav. So don't you think the answer is shma mino? From here, I clearly see that Hada Ona Amen. In the Sefer of the Mishnah, the case is he answered Amen, as the Mishnah clearly said, V'Amar Amen, and then he'll be Chayiv. And Hada Lo Yana Amen. In the Reisha of the Mishnah, he did not answer Amen, and therefore he's going to be Potter. So therefore, there's a clear raya here from the Mishnah, from this Mishnah, from the stira of the next Mishnah and the Braisa. But here it's mamish. It's not only from a stira to a Braisa. Here it's mamish a clear raya from the Mishnah itself. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, you mamish have a clear raya from the Mishnah of El Shmuel, my Kamashmalon. So what was Shmuel coming and teaching here? If it's such a clear raya from the Mishnah itself, and says the Gemara, Dukya the Masnisin Kamashmalon. Shmuel is coming to tell you that the diak of the Mishnah, when it says mipi atzmai and v'loy mipi achedim, that'll be potter, that this diak is a real diak. And when it says in the Mishnah that Yechayev, that it's dafke if he answered Amen. And you shouldn't say that maybe when it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah that he answered Amen, maybe you would think that it's lav dafke. Shmuel is coming to say, no, the diak of the Mishnah is a correct diak and it's dafke, and only when he answers Amen is it completely equivalent to saying the Shavuot himself. Hadran Allah, Shavuos Shtayim, we shall return to you, the third Perek of Masech Shavuos, Shavuos Shtayim, Shein Arba.